Great. What do we want to talk about today?
Well, these are pretty freewheeling conversations, and they're about business and the arts, but today's about business. We can talk about whatever we like. And if you have some specific things that you'd like to talk about, we can do that.
Yeah. So, who's your audience? Tell me about your audience.
Well, it's very small at the moment,
Okay.
but
So, business owners, though, or
business owners, yeah. And the arts part comes from my association with acting and singing and people
you're an
that
actor?
well, they let me act sometimes. I,
That's great.
my wife says I want to act badly, and I do, but
Oh, okay.
no, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Of course, the theater and all the performing arts are shut down now, so it's
Yeah.
really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
For those individuals who use that as an outlet for creativity,
right,
and for those who use it as a business model.
exactly.
I think it's really hard for businesses, and especially in the entertainment world. So I'm surrounded by musicians in my family.
Yes,
So some of them are gig musicians, so they're all shut down. They don't, they're not performing. Um, so it's unfortunate. There's no concerts being held anywhere.
right.
So it's really sad, and I think people are suffering from that, from a mental perspective, and just not having that outlet that brings them so much joy.
I have a friend whose name you'd know, but he was booked in Europe, all over Europe before this started, and that's all canceled. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
not only for the artists, but also for people. I mean, live music
sure.
is something that's important in the world.
Well, yeah. And so I generally spend some time in Nashville in the wintertime. And this past winter, so last year I was there from January through March, and it was wonderful, and it was a great place for live music and excitement and entertainment and lots of things to do and see. And this year I got there. Well, I went to East Tennessee. I have a friend in East Tennessee, and I stayed with her for about a week, and that was the week that the tornado hit Nashville.
Oh my goodness!
And then I got to Nashville, and it was pretty devastating because I felt the loss because all of those things that I had come to love the previous year were not available. And then and even the church that I went to down in Nashville had been leveled by the tornado. So I felt a little uprooted. And there was no live music. Well, I think the week that I got there was just before the pandemic really took hold.
Yeah.
And so I got there on a Tuesday, which happened to be my birthday. So I was there Tuesday, and we went out on Thursday to a local establishment, and then by Tuesday, the following Tuesday, I was headed home because it
Wow.
had just really. So that was St. Patrick's Day, and I traveled from Nashville back to Central
On your
New York.
calendar,
Oh,
Debbie and Jim
Debbie,
discuss
sorry.
business
This
with
is
James Heisey and Debbie
Oh,
Bilello. Starts in 10
see
minutes.
see you were right. I was wrong, but
excellent. Well, I don't
she's
pride
On
going to
your
myself on
tell us
being
calendar,
right,
again.
but I'm
Debbie
okay
and
with it.
Jim discuss business with James Heisey and Debbie Bilello.
Yeah.
Starts in 10 minutes.
And I love that Alexa knows my name and says it
On your
correctly.
calendar,
Sure. Oh, come
Debbie
on,
and Jim
Alexa.
discuss
Alexa,
business
thank
with James
you.
Heisey and Debbie Bilello. Starts in
Alexa,
10 minutes.
Alexa, thank you. Yes.
Anytime.
Oh,
Anytime.
Looks
Yeah.
wet today. Stay dry out there, James.
There you go. Stay dry out there. Getting
it
rain
is. It's
today?
it's raining here today. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
it's a
it
little
snowing up
overcast and
there yet?
cloudy. Yeah, it's cloudy here. So, but anyway, the day that I drove home, I drove 14 hours in one day, and I felt like everything was closing behind me. There was rest stops not open, there was restaurants not open, so I just kind of put the pedal to the metal and drove. You know,
Yeah.
I said it just needed to make my little potty stops, and that was it. Get back in the car and keep going.
And
So
go. Yeah.
But that was on St. Patrick's Day, and by that weekend following, most things had been shut down. So I got back just in the nick of time, you know.
Well, I'm
So,
glad you did. And
but I'm excited, hoping that things will be open again because I plan to go back to Tennessee. I'm not a big fan of New York snow, and the older I get, the less I love it.
right.
So, and so, where are you? Are you in a snow place?
No. Well, we're on the coast. I'm in Connecticut, down
Oh,
near
okay,
New York City. Yeah.
okay, all right. So
In
you
a
get
town called
some,
Fairfield.
right?
Oh
You
yeah.
get some, but yeah. Well,
It,
I live in central New York, so I'm about 30 miles south of Lake Ontario.
yep.
And so we get lake effect snow. And lake effect snow, we never know what it's going to do. It can either snow a couple inches or a couple feet, and we never know until it hits.
Yep.
So, yeah, so I'm a little over that at my age. So I don't like to shovel it. I don't like to be in it. I don't like to drive in it. So I have found great peace in becoming a snowbird. I'm
Good.
okay with that. So I have a
Yep.
place that is available to me whenever I want it. And so that's a fun story. That kind of came to me through Profit First.
Oh.
Um, when I went to the Profit Con in 2018, Mike McAllowitz, in your welcome packet, you get a wish card to make a wish. And so I had wished to be out of New York winters for January, February, and March, either in North Carolina, South Carolina, or Tennessee. And another Profit First professional at a mastery level um, offered me her cottage in Nashville
Wow.
for those 3 months, granted my wish. And so I am forever grateful to her for doing that because it was such a good experience. And I have now these additional wonderful friends that I have formed a great relationship with. So,
Oh, that's
and
terrific.
and sharing business ideas and kind of bouncing things off each other. That was a lot of fun to do that in over a 3 month period of time. So it was great fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I had a client down in Nashville, so I've been there a couple times.
yeah, yeah. It's a
And when
fun
I was
city.
little. Yeah.
The
So
funnest.
Profit First. Tell me a little bit about Profit First and why it's important and why it's important to you.
Well, so let me first say that Profit First in my business was a game changer. I started my business in 2010 after being let go from local government. I worked in local government and I did the accounting. And sometimes local government does not act in the ways that are appropriate for the well-being of their citizens. And when I mentioned that some things were not quite up to par for my comfort, and that we should not be doing things in the way we were doing them, I was let go. I was let go
Yep.
because it was easier to get rid of the squeaky wheel than it was to change the methods and ways that they had used for years that appeared to work for them. So I was let go, and at the time, I was devastated. I thought that was going to be my last job. I was going to retire from that job. So, and it was, one of those nice government jobs, right?
Oh, sure.
So I was let go, and I was encouraged by another entrepreneur to start my own business to do bookkeeping. And at the time, I did more administrative consulting, just in processes and in systems and workflows. And I had worked in a previous job as a personalized underwriter, and I had worked with processing procedural manuals and that type of thing. So I'm very familiar in the administrative field. I was kind of the go-to person in those roles that I held as the problem solver. So I started doing bookkeeping. At the time, my brothers owned a golf course, so I kind of did a little bit of work with them and did their bookkeeping. And so found the need was more for bookkeeping services and financial management. So I moved more from the administrative piece to the bookkeeping, became certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor, um, and then I was introduced to the Profit First book by a client, and they said to me, have you ever heard of this? This sounds pretty cool. And they had read it. Well, I read it, and at the time I was kind of struggling with some cash flow things with my clients, and not really feeling like I was giving them good answers. So as I dove into this book and I read it, and I think I read it in a day, and at the end of the book, it's, of course, it says to reach out to Profit First professionals if this is interesting to
Yeah.
you. And I did, and I had a wonderful conversation with Ron Saharian, who is the co-founder of Profit First Professionals with Mike Michalowicz. And we had a great interview, and I think we talked on the phone for probably an hour and a half. And it was just, I felt very refreshed because I felt like this made sense to me. This process made sense. And it seemed simple enough to follow, it because it made sense, and so that sentence, it just makes sense, has kind of become the cornerstone for why I went into Profit First, because accounting, let's face it, accounting is very confusing for people. And when people go into business doing what they love and what they're passionate about, they're not necessarily gifted in the area of record keeping. Okay. But they understand the importance of it, and they understand that in order to grow their business, in order to expand their business, they need to have a handle on that financial piece. So that became kind of my passion. I started becoming certified with Profit First, and talking to different businesses about it, and holding workshops. I held a workshop, and I tell this story a lot because I have 3 boys, and my youngest son at the time was 18. And I asked him if he would come to the workshop that I was hosting and video the workshop. I wanted him to capture that on video, just so I could kind of perfect my my presentation. And of course, every time I looked up, he was on his phone, texting or doing whatever. And so in my head, I'm thinking, well, as long as he gets the video, what difference does it make, right? So a couple days later, he came to me and he said, Mom, will you help me set up my personal finances like Profit First?
Ooh.
And of course, my first response was, who are you and what have you done with my son? And so we had a great conversation about that. And I asked him why. I said, why is this important to you? And his answer was, because it just makes sense. So that just became that defining statement for Profit First for me. Because if an 18-year-old can understand it, and it makes sense to them, who, most 18-year-olds right now, they're, whatever they're doing, it's not really managing their finances.
Yeah.
And so, and I think back when I was a kid, I never really had that guidance in finances when I was growing up, because we don't learn it in school. My parents were, there was 5 kids in the family, so we were constantly, scraping by in one way or another, so my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So I didn't have that foundation, and I was excited to give that financial foundation to my son. So I started to get more and more excited about Profit First because it did make sense. So I implemented it in my business, and it has made all the difference in the world in my business. It has taken me from owning a job to owning a business, and I think that's kind of a mind shift too. When you start to see some success, you go, this might be a little bit more than just a job that I'm doing from my home.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little bit more than that. So you start to gain momentum, and then you implement the Profit First system, and now all of a sudden you have your safety net. You have your money set aside for emergencies, and you're starting to build that vault of backup finances in the event of like a COVID-19 pandemic, let's say.
Exactly.
So, and I am happy to say that I have survived the financial piece of the pandemic because of Profit First. If I didn't have Profit First in my business and in my life, I probably would not have survived this time. And in fact, right now my business is growing, and it's expanding, and I'm getting referrals, a lot of referrals, a lot of opportunities to talk to people about Profit First. And so, because it just makes sense, and that's the phrase that I like to share, because if it makes sense to an 18-year-old, it'll make sense to a business owner, you know? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And your that the business is expanding is important. We have a mutual friend, and I talked to him yesterday,
Yes.
and his business is expanding because of Profit First too. So
Yeah. I think it's a need. I really believe that people have been caught off guard by this pandemic. They really have realized now, we're what, 6 months into it, and they realize now that I wasn't prepared for this. So, what can I do now in my business to make myself more financially secure and build that foundation in a way that if and when the next wave hits or something different hits, if there's another catastrophic thing that happens, that we as business owners can survive it. Because I truly believe that small business is the heartbeat of this country. And I think if we're stronger, better, more financially sound businesses, then we can build a better world to leave to our kids, you
yeah,
know? So having that foundation and being prepared for whatever comes, I think is important. I have a lot of clients that have not gone out of business, but their business has stopped during the pandemic because they're in the wedding industry or they're in the gym industry or those places that have been shut down. So
yeah.
trying to be more creative with your offerings and to have that kind of nest egg or that emergency fund available to you has been important to them. They're still hanging on. In fact, the gyms are opening. My wedding industry people are starting to be a little more creative with their offerings. So, and I think having chatted with them and implemented Profit First in their businesses have given them more confidence to explore those options more.
That two things come to mind out of that. The innovation that people have had to
Yeah,
do because of COVID first
yeah.
is, one of the good things that's coming out of this. What about what is it about Profit First that makes the business survive? I mean, why Profit First? How does that work?
I think it's an awareness. It's an awareness because I think businesses will go day to day and they're just, money's coming in, money's going out, and they're not really, because it's going all into one bank account, they're not really analyzing those things that are happening in their business. So when you implement Profit First and you divide that money into multiple accounts, now all of a sudden there becomes this, you get this clarity about what you're spending money on. Um, because we all think that if, okay, I have all this money in my account, in my head, I'm going to understand that, okay, I have $1,000. I have to pay rent. I have to put aside money, when the tax money comes. And we always think that it's going to be better tomorrow. I'll be okay tomorrow and the next day. And over time, it's going to get better. And when I get to tax time or whatever time, it's going to be fine. When in fact, things happen like COVID-19.
Yeah,
Now all of a sudden, people are filing taxes and they don't have the money put aside because they're struggling to keep their business afloat. So I think just the awareness of where their money goes and what they're doing with their money. As you do an expense, as a Profit First professional, you're doing an expense analysis with them and finding those things that maybe they're spending money on that they're not getting a good return on that investment.
mhm,
And one of the things that I see all the time is meals and entertainment. People are spending money on meals and, I'm going to drive through Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks and grab my cup of coffee and think that I'm going to claim that as an expense on my taxes. And it's not. So when you bring that awareness to them, or dues and subscriptions is another one. How many of us have signed up for something and never implemented that something in our business, or it's just and it's just on auto pay. It's coming
yeah,
out of our accounts and it's just on auto pay. So when you start to do that expense analysis and bring that awareness to the client, to the business owner, now all of a sudden they go, holy cow, I didn't realize I was spending that much money on things that have no impact on my business, or maybe have a detrimental
Yeah.
impact on my business. So yeah, it's a struggle for people, and just having that awareness. And I like to say that in my business, I like to bring clarity to their financial foundation, to their structure and to their system that their structure is built on. And once they have clarity, and nothing brings me more joy than to have a client have that aha moment and be excited about something that they've learned that I was able to offer them. And all of a sudden they go, it makes sense. Back to that same statement. That's
Yeah.
such a cornerstone for what the Profit First system is, because it makes sense. So I've been working with a group of individuals and have had those experiences quite often in the last few weeks.
Oh,
Where all of a
terrific.
sudden you can see, when you're on a Zoom meeting, you can see the expression in their face. You don't get that on a phone sometimes, and all of a sudden you see like that light bulb moment, that aha moment. They go, I get that. That makes so much sense. And I'm excited to implement that and move that forward to see more success from that particular process that we're implementing. So, yeah,
Good.
yeah, lots of fun, very rewarding.
So do you work in a group? Is that how you're doing it? Is it a Zoom group, or are you working individually, or
So
all of the above?
so I do all of that actually. I have individual clients. As I said, I started out doing bookkeeping before I was introduced to Profit First. So I do have some bookkeeping clients that I do monthly maintenance of their QuickBooks, mostly QuickBooks Online, some QuickBooks desktop files. And that's a service I provide to them. And there's a couple of them that are not Profit First individuals. They're not Profit First clients. They're just strictly bookkeeping.
Yeah.
But as I bring on new clients, I had decided to transition my business a little bit more into everybody that I do business with now gets an element of Profit First coaching in their business. Okay, even if I'm just doing their bookkeeping, they get some. I want to say like it's in intervals. They'll get some action items to say, okay, and they know coming into it that
Yeah.
this is a Profit First system, and I'm going to give you some homework, so to speak, to do. I'm not going to just do your books. This is a partnership. This is a team effort to bring you to financial clarity and to build a good solid foundation. So as I bring on new clients, though, they understand, and most of them have come to me because of the Profit First system, not necessarily for bookkeeping. But I offer several different things. So what I call it is building a foundation for financial success and profitability. And they get a document when we start working together, or when we have a discovery call or a discovery meeting, and it explains to them what I, as Virtual Office Solutions, will offer to them. This is what my business is, and this is what I offer. So there's a phase one, which is the discovery phase, where we're going to review their current set of books and any other documents, and review the systems that they're using to keep their finances in order. We're going to talk if they have teammates, if they have a bookkeeper on staff, we're going to talk about that and how, what their comfort level is with the process that they have in place. Many times, more often than not, when I start to talk to somebody, will realize that their books have not been kept up to date, which is really the pain that causes them to make the phone call, because they don't have that clarity. They don't know what's going on in their books. So oftentimes we'll go from the discovery, we'll go into what I call a renovation or an update. We'll bring their file up to date. And then, because we can't talk about Profit First until we know what your numbers are. So we have to get to that point first. And often that's that relief point where they go, okay, I understand now, and I'm ready to move on from that. So from there, we can go into, some people, they don't have a system in place. So from that discovery session, we decide what is the system they have, if they have one. If they don't have one, the next phase is to set something up. So we'll set up some type of program. And I use mostly with QuickBooks Online. I have been exploring becoming certified with Xero, because there are some advantages to the Xero bookkeeping system. QuickBooks Desktop, and I use some integrations like document management system. I use HubDoc.
Yeah.
So, so that people are just taking a picture of receipts. They don't have to worry about saving receipts and all those receipts that are going to fade over time that are going to be no good anyways. Snap a picture of it. It goes right to a dashboard that I review. So if they have employees and they need to do time tracking, I work with T-Sheets, time tracking software, and can offer that. So we just really look at what their needs are and put together a system that works for them. I'm not a cookie cutter bookkeeper. I'm not one to say, oh, just sign up for QuickBooks Online and you'll be fine. That might not work for everybody. Sometimes QuickBooks Desktop is the better option for them, depending on their situation.
Yeah.
So we just, we do the discovery. If they need a setup, we set up whatever is appropriate for them. If they need a renovation, we do that. Only then, when we have all of those systems in place and we can pull good numbers, then we talk about cash flow management and we talk about the profit first system. From there, we go, okay, so now we're going to do an instant assessment. We're going to see where you stand. Now that you have good numbers, you're going to see where you stand. And oftentimes that's that kind of eye-popping moment where they go, oh my gosh, I'm spending 75% of my revenue on operating expenses, and how am I going to get it to 30? How are we going to do that? So that's where a lot of hand-holding takes place on my end, because I have to say to them, I don't want you to panic about this because you're the norm, not the exception. Okay? You're conducting business exactly the way you should be doing business for the knowledge that you have. Okay, so now we're going to provide more knowledge to you to allow you to expand that thought process into, now how can I be more profitable? So we work in those different systems. So it's kind of a 4-step process, or a 3-step process depending on where they are with their books. But the discovery session usually lasts about an hour. And I don't charge for that. I know there's a lot of people that charge for a discovery session. I want them to trust me. I want them to know that I have their best interests in mind. And I want them to know that when a potential client calls me, this is a total no judgment zone. I have seen all kinds of things in people's books, and I approach it from total no judgment, because that's not what they went into business to do, is bookkeeping. So I don't want to say lack of knowledge, but that's not their focus. That's not where their heart is or where their passion is in their business. So
it shouldn't be.
Right.
I like the way you say that they're doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have now, and that we can expand that. And
Yeah,
that's
we're
part of
going to
what you do.
expand that knowledge.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So, and they're grateful for that, and again, when you see that look on their face, that all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, what a relief it is that somebody understands me, or understands the way I do my business, or understands that I'm not a bookkeeper, that I'm a plumber, or I'm a clinician, or I'm, whatever I am. That's where my heart is. And so I just need somebody to hold my hand through the financial piece. And that's really the impression that I want them to have. That's what I want them to understand, is that I'm here to hold their hand through the process. I'm not here to take it off their plate and do it for them, because they still need to understand. Because once we get the profit first numbers and percentages in place, then we can talk about, what are your goals for the future? What did you dream of? Because I speak at at our local college. They have what they call a self-employment assistance program, and they offer this fast track to business, where you get the foundational basics of starting a business, and they have all kinds of speakers come in over a 3-day period of time. And I come in and I talk about financial record keeping. And so one of the first things I say to them is, how many people had, and I love it when it's in person. It's a little more challenging because when it's on a webinar, because I can't see faces, and I really play off of, emotion. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way, but I can, when I can read an audience, it's more informative.
Yeah.
So, I'll say to them, how many people went into business because they had a dream, and all the hands go up. And so what was your dream? And from a general perspective, what was the dream you had when you went into business? Was your dream to have a lifestyle that's supported by your business? Or is your dream to just run like a hamster on a wheel and do business and get burnt out? I'm here to give you that foundation that your business is going to support a lifestyle. Because none of us went into business to pay high taxes. None of us went into business to not pay ourselves. None of us went into business to just turn over our money to all the expenses. I have not met one business person yet that hasn't had a dream about what they want their business to do for them. So then the question is, how are you getting there? What's the plan that you have in place right now to get there? And many of them have zero plan. They have no plan whatsoever. And that's where I think Profit First is that plan. Profit First is the way to bring you to that place where you're not only understanding your numbers, but you have the opportunity to grow your business. So if you can keep that clear and move ahead in ways that are frugal and pay yourself first. I've talked to many people that said, I never paid myself in my business. Well, why? And then I've had people say, how many years can I show a loss before I have to pay taxes?
Yeah.
That one kind of makes me cringe a little bit, makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up a little. Because why would you go in business to lose money? I'm pretty sure that that's not the reason you started your business.
Right.
But they want to avoid taxes. And what I say to them, well, you're going to pay taxes. That's a fact of life. Okay. Let's just plan for it. If we can make it so it's less painful for you because, you found out on April 12th that you have to pay $10,000 in taxes and now you have $5,000 in your bank account that you have to operate your business on. Well, that's a problem. So let's plan for it rather than limit yourself from a financial perspective and from a growth perspective. If you're going to limit yourself, why bother even doing the business? Why bother? Doesn't make any sense. So bringing that clarity to them is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Building that foundation. So that's what I love about my job. That's what I love about it is giving them vision. And of course, Mike McCallis will tell you, profit is not an event, it's a habit. So, you got the April 15th deadline and all of a sudden people are panicked. They start in January 1st and now all of a sudden they're panicking and the stress factor is building and building and building until they get to that unknown number, that magic unknown number that puts them over the edge. Profit is not an event, it's a habit. Let's form good habits so that the event where you have to pay that is less painful. And that's what Profit First will do. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I like what I do.
It shows.
Yeah.
And it shows that you do it well.
Well, I like to think that over the last 10 years, I've learned a few things,
Yeah.
And I have people now that will, I have a friend who opened a quilt store and several months into it said to me, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Most people don't know because, again, their passion lies in the business that they're starting, not in all that technical, administrative, bookkeeping, financial record keeping, not in all that stuff. And it's those people, they go, I just want to do the stuff that I love. I just want to do what I love. And so that's when people like you and I come into play and say, well, we're going to help you do the stuff you love and take that other stuff off your plate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good way to say it too. The system replaces them, and we replace them too, so that they can do the stuff they love.
Right.
And part of starting a new business is understanding that you really can't do everything, and you do need systems to help you.
Yeah, and that's another part of when I speak to these new business owners is knowing when to outsource. And it's just not bookkeeping. It could be payroll. It could be website design. It could be social media marketing. It could be any of those things. If they don't bring you joy and they bring you frustration, you might want to consider that just being that cost of doing business. It's the cost of doing business. And some of those things, if you're good at it and you're passionate about it, that's one thing. But I always use the analogy with them to give, so imagine if you were to pay yourself an hourly rate, what would that rate be? And then if it takes me anywhere between, I don't know, 3 and 6 hours a month to do somebody's bookkeeping, depending on the file, the client, the revenue, all of those things. If it takes me between 3 and 6 hours a month, how long would it take you? Using them as an example, how long do you think it would take you to do your own bookkeeping? And I often get a lot of chuckles about that, and they'll go like, well, at least, I don't know, a week, and they
Yeah.
throw out some funny number. I said, is it fair to say that if it takes me 3 to 6 hours, that it might take you 10? And that's a pretty agreeable number. Now take those 10 hours times the hourly rate that you just imagined for yourself and multiply that. And that's the amount of revenue that you're losing by trying to do it yourself. That's the revenue that you're missing out on because you are in your office trying to do something that, number one, you're not good at, you're not passionate about, you don't understand. And now you're losing revenue because you're frustrated and sitting in an office space when you could be out doing what you're good at. That's the biggest factor for me to explain to them to know when to outsource. If it drains you and if you're exhausted by it, or if you're frustrated by it, it's not going to get done in a timely fashion, then you're going to end up having multiple months behind. You're going to get behind, and believe me, I have had, and I don't know if I told you this scenario, I had a business owner call me one time, and he had 5 businesses, like a restaurant, a cafe, a food truck, a couple rental properties, and he hadn't done his books in 3 years.
Wow.
So he asked me if I could help him, and I said, of course I can help you. I said, you have to understand that it's going to take time and money to get it under control. So he asked me for a quote, and to do 5 businesses for 3 years, the quote was over $10,000. And that was probably still a lot less than it should have been.
Yeah.
And he very nicely told me where to put my quote. And he says, I don't understand how it could cost so much money. And he says, my girlfriend used to do it for me for nothing. I said, I think that's a great deal. Why hasn't she done it in 3 years?
Right.
Well, she's not my girlfriend anymore. I said, well, I can understand that. And then he said, but my accountant used to charge me $1,000 for the whole year to do my bookkeeping and taxes. I said, but again, he hasn't done it in 3 years, so what's the problem? Well, he went out of business. I said, well, he probably didn't charge you enough money to do all the things that you asked him to do. And so I never heard from him again. Last I heard through the grapevine was that 2 of his businesses went bankrupt. And because he hadn't paid taxes in 3 years either, because he didn't have good books to present to his accountant to do taxes. So when you get behind like that, it does become a financial burden then too. It's, again, you have to weigh that cost of doing business to pay a monthly fee for somebody to do that. Or do you try and do it yourself and get so far behind that now it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to get caught up?
Yeah.
And those are the phone calls that I usually get around February or March.
Hmm.
I haven't done my books for the entire year last year. How quickly can we get it done, and how fast can you do it, or how much is it going to cost? Well, that's a crapshoot, because I know that that's going to be my busiest time of year. And if you want priority service, that means that I have to push other people off, and delay their processing to accommodate you. So yes, it's going to cost more, and it's going to take X number of weeks to get it done. So that's a hard conversation to have with people. It's much more fun and easy to talk to them on a monthly basis and tell them how good they're doing in business than it is to,
Yes.
than it is to get together with them and say, well, I got bad news for you, So yeah, I like that other part better. It's more fun.
But if you're, and I'm not really proselytizing, we're talking about things other than profit first. But if they have these accounts set up, it's easier to see, and it's, as you say, it's clear where the money is and what has to happen.
Yeah. And then it also becomes an emotional and a mental game too. And I've seen this happen where, if they're allocating, say they're starting, we're starting them down the journey. So we're not taking them all the way to the 5% profit or whatever that percentage is for the revenue. And they're starting with 1%. And I just had this conversation this week. All I want you to do is move 1% of your money into a profit account. That's all I want you to do. I want you to set up those other accounts, but I want you to move any money into them, just 1%. Well, and then a couple of days later, I get an email saying, I think I can do more than 1%. Okay.
Right.
All
Yes.
right. So make sure you're not creating a financial hardship in your operating expenses, because it has to come from somewhere. So where are you going to pull that additional money from? What have you changed in your expenses to allow that extra money to go into your profit account? Well, and so they start playing games now with themselves, and they start getting a whole excitement about putting money aside, or my business is profitable for the first time ever. You know, um, those things are real exciting mental challenges for people. When they see the potential for putting that money aside. Now it just becomes this game that they play with themselves, to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go find more money to cut from operating so I can pay myself a better salary.
Yeah.
Or, it starts becoming this back and forth situation where they're challenging themselves. And nothing makes my heart sing more than somebody coming back and saying, I found more money to put in my profit account. I'm like, yay. So that's a lot of fun to have that conversation. So
And at the end of this process, the business, instead of consuming you and being on the treadmill it becomes a business that supports you
right.
rather than the other way around, which
Yeah.
happens to so
Yeah.
many small business people.
Right. And then we go back to that dream that they had.
Yes.
Because everything starts with a dream. Everything starts with a dream. If you're going into business, you're not going into business just because, it's something to do. It starts with a dream. So if you go back to that dream and you say to them, remember what you told me you wanted to do in your business. And now look, before Profit First, you didn't have the roadmap to get there. And now we've got the roadmap and you're moving in that direction. There's nothing more fulfilling than that, to say, I can help to put my dream into place.
Yeah.
That business is now going to support me, and I can do those things that I dreamt about doing when I started my business. So, but I always take them back to the dream. What is it you want? What do you want in your business? So that's an old multi-level marketing scheme from years and years ago. Years ago, a lifetime ago, it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your dream? What is that? Pretty Woman? The guy at the end of the movie. What's your dream? You ever seen that movie? Pretty Woman?
No.
Yeah, Pretty Woman with Julia Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. And you have to, I mean, it's a long movie to get you to the end. You should probably just Google "What's Your Dream," with Pretty Woman, and it's a guy just walking down the street going, "What's your dream?" After she gets herself to a place where she's happier in life. So, yeah, what's your dream? Got to keep being reminded, especially in these tough times. We have to be reminded. Why did we go in business to begin with? What's
Yeah.
a dream? Yeah.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. So it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of challenge to be a business owner right now. And I guess that's true in anything that we do. Every day that you wake up, you can make a decision whether it's going to be a miserable day or whether it's going to be a good day, right? And so I choose to put all this COVID stuff aside and say, I still have a roof over my head. I still have a family that is filled with love and appreciation. And yeah, there's a lot of this dynamics going on the outside, but it doesn't have to affect us. We can still stay in our place where we're, in our happy place. Let's stay in our happy place and do the things that make us happy and content, and forget about the rest of the world. If it doesn't really affect you, just keep pushing along. There's ways to adjust. So I had a really good scenario with one of my gym owners, um, she, when this COVID first hit back in March, she called me and, well, no, I reached out to her because I was calling all my clients and just kind of seeing where they stood and what the future was holding for them, what adjustments they were making in their business. And she said to me, I'm just shutting down. I'm shutting the doors. And I stopped all my auto pays because all of her memberships were on auto pay. She says, I shut off all my auto pays. I'm just going to shut the door. We talked probably for 45 minutes to an hour that day. And I said, why? I said, first of all, turn your auto pays back on. I said, let them come to you. People are going to need you as that outlet for their health right now. They're going to need you. So how can you serve them in a way that's different than them coming to your gym? Let's talk about how to serve them. Let's brainstorm a little bit. And we did. And she came up with, some, nutritional emails and some Zoom workouts and some personalized things with specific members. And we just talked about a lot of things. And she said to me, and I can't pay you, at the beginning of the conversation, she says, and I can't pay you for your services. And I said, that's fine. I'm going to be here if you need me. We'll put it on pause for now and you let me know and we'll touch base every, couple weeks or so and we'll see how you're doing. A week later, she called me and she said, I have to tell you that you really got me thinking. I went back in, I turned on all of my auto pays back on, and I've only lost, I don't know how many members it was, that called her to cancel their memberships. And I started offering these other things. And she said, I can't believe that I was willing to shut the doors when this is now continuing. Everything's continuing and people are receptive to it, and they're open to this online workouts and stuff. And the last thing she said to me is, and please go in and start your auto pay and pay yourself, she says, because you deserve it this month. She said.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
So
that's a great story.
Yeah, so that was, so there are a lot of good things happening, even though we seem to be a little overwhelmed with COVID. There's a lot of good things and it's making people think outside the box. They're having to think about more creativity and more ways they can serve their clients. And they're figuring it out. Some people are figuring it out. Sometimes they just need somebody to bounce those ideas off. They just need to say it out loud. And so if we as Profit First professionals can provide that sounding board for them and offer a little solution here or there. I mean, I'm not a genius by any means, but I've seen enough different businesses to say, well, let's think about this, or let's try that, or what can we do that's a little bit different now? And then they take the ball and they run with it, or they don't. It's up to them. But sometimes they just need a sounding board because there's nothing more lonely than being a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Because what are we doing? We're sitting in our office talking to ourselves, Sometimes I come up with better answers, sometimes I don't, and sometimes I get to communicate with great people like you and we can, bounce things off each other and have a great sounding board. Entrepreneurs need that too, not just us in the financial world or the business consulting world, but the plumbers and the gym owners and the wedding photographers, and all of them need a sounding board. Because where are they getting it from? This is not corporate America. This is a lot of elbow grease and a lot of down and dirty kind of discussions that happen in the entrepreneur world. So, yeah. But I don't want to be anywhere else. I say now that I tell people that I'm psychologically unemployable now.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I couldn't possibly go back to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. The freedoms that I have and the results that I can offer to people who maybe are struggling a little bit with some financial clarity, that's far more rewarding than any 9-to-5 job that I can do. So, especially in local government. Not getting that satisfaction there for sure.
Yeah. Very good. What else should we talk about? How's life? Let's talk, what's going on in life? What's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. Let me think. I don't know, the meaning of life. Like I said, you get up every day and you get to choose whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day. And I've started kind of reaching out to friends and family members again and saying, let's just get together and have some fun. I mean, of course, we can't go out anywhere, it seems, but I've kind of I have a group of women that I have become friends with over the years, and we used to get together. We'd call it girls' night out, and we used to get together intermittently, maybe 3-4 times a year. And so I just made a decision that I was going to be very intentional about the invite. And so the fourth Friday of every month, we get together at my house. You come to my house, bring whatever you like. If you want something to eat, bring it. If we just last Friday we did an ice cream social. There was like 8 of us, just come over, let's make ice cream sundaes or something. And we just sit and we laugh and we have fun, and we just share all the good times and bad times together. And um, it was, and of course, I have some of my friends are a little crazy, but they bring their own little speakers. They put on the disco dance party, and they're out on my patio dancing disco. But I think you grab onto those special times. There's nothing more special to me than right now with family and friends. So
Yeah, we need that.
and I have a lot of fun. I have a 2-year-old grandson locally. I have a 12-year-old grandson who lives in Nebraska, and his sister is 8. 8. Um, so I have 3 grandchildren. 2 of them live in Nebraska, and one is local to me, and he's 2. And he's a handful, but boy, is he a little whippersnapper. Let me tell you, he's full of it and smart. So I get to play with him about once a week and have time with him. So that brings me lots of joy.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yep. So I'm hoping to get out to see my Nebraska family. They just moved from the West Coast. My oldest son is in the military. He's in the Air Force, and he just moved from California, Sacramento area, Beale Air Force Base, to Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. So they've only been there for maybe a month now. So I'm hoping when I go to Tennessee in January, I'll go to East Tennessee to visit my friend, and then I'll go to Nashville to stay for a little bit, and then I'll drive to Nebraska and visit them for a couple weeks. So hoping, fingers crossed,
Yes.
see how that works
Yeah.
out. So I miss them tremendously. So and I can't believe my grandson is 12 years old. His last year before he's a teenager.
Wow, they grow fast, don't they?
They do grow fast, yeah. And I can't imagine how they're getting old and I'm not. I don't know how that
Yeah.
works.
Right.
But yeah, so I have 3 boys. So the oldest one is there, and the one with the 2-year-old is local, and then my youngest one lives with me, and he's 25, 24 now.
Yeah.
He's 25 now. Yeah, so I have lots of fun with my family. They're the joys of my life. So they're very good.
May it always be so. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So how about you? What's bringing you joy these days?
Um, Actually working on this stuff that we're working on.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
yeah, good.
And family, we have 4 grandkids, 2
Okay,
wives, but 4 grandkids. And one's 4, one's 7, and one's 15, and one's 16. So
okay.
the 15, 16 live with their mother, but I'm sorry, 16, 17. The 17 one is going to be down for the weekend, so we're looking forward to seeing
Oh,
her.
nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so she's going to be a senior in high school. Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, will they be in school or virtual or?
I think we're still struggling here in Connecticut. They're
Yeah.
they're all saying, "Oh, well, we're going to come back," but uh, I don't know if they do come back, they may close it again right away.
I think it's going to be a trial kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
My Nebraska kids, they're back in school. They're
yeah.
in school. So I haven't talked to Julie, my daughter-in-law, this week or in about a week or so to know how that's going. But I need to reach out to her and figure that out. So see how they're doing.
My son and his wife are both teachers. My son's a musician,
Okay.
and she is an elementary school teacher, and I think they're going to go back, but she gets to teach from home. I don't know how that's all working.
I know. I know.
Chris's,
I can't
Chris's
be.
struggle is he's the music director of the youth orchestra down here.
Yeah.
And it was a real struggle of whether they were going to have the kids come back or whether they were going to do virtual. And I think that answer is going to be all virtual for now. Because
Yeah.
if a musician's going to be right next to you and a singer is about the worst thing you can do or most dangerous thing you can do. So,
apparently, I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently in New York, one of the most dangerous things you can do is sit in a bar and eat chicken wings. So I don't know.
Oh, really?
You can go to a bar, but you have to order food.
Yeah.
Chicken wings don't count. They
Oh,
don't count as food. So apparently it's dangerous. I don't know.
apparently so.
It's hard to navigate all of it for sure. So the musician in your family, that your son or son-in-law?
Son,
Son. And what does he play?
he's a violist, but he's a conductor.
Okay.
Yeah. And my wife is a pianist and was the organist at our church for
Okay.
ever, and
Yeah.
used to run the Westport School of Music. So we have a very musical family, except for me.
Yeah.
They're pros. I get to be the amateur.
Well, yeah, everybody's got to be something, right?
That's right.
You get to be the observer. You get to be the cheerleader, So, yeah, music's an important part of life. That's for sure. We have a lot of music in our family too. When I was in high school, which was just a few years ago, I was in a drum and bugle corps.
Ah,
So I did color guard, and my husband, we met in drum and bugle corps, and he has maintained his musician abilities. He's a horn player, so he can play any horn he can pick up. So he plays everything from a baritone to a concert tuba to a sousaphone and he's kind of a closet drummer too. So so we've got a lot of music around us. Our boys never really picked up on it. They played a little bit of music for 1 year in school and said, "Nah, that's not for me." But they grew up in that environment where we were going to drum corps competitions every weekend and that type of thing. So a lot of music around us. So we miss that part of life right now, is the musical part.
yeah.
Yeah, because nobody's playing. So, but
You too.
yeah. So,
Well, but life goes on. So
it does
thank
indeed.
the Lord, we're here another day. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have enjoyed this conversation. This has been great.
I have too, Debbie. Thank you.
So what's the next step for you for business? So tell me about.
Well, as I say, I have a new client. I have put together, based on some of the stuff that we've talked about, the Profit First workbook, and I'm ready to. I want. Actually, I want to send it to you if it's all right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I want to offer that, for an introductory way price, like I think you did.
Sure. Yeah.
That gets people in, and or not get people in, but helps people understand the basics of Profit First on their own.
Right.
If they want help, I'm here to help. You're here to help, and we can go to the next level. But,
yeah. So now, are you also a Fix This Next coach?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't jump on that bandwagon. Well, mostly because I was trying to fine tune my Profit First skills.
Sure.
More so, but and in fact, I have the book behind me. I haven't even read it yet, so shame on me for not having read it yet. But yeah, mine's back there too. So but that's my next read.
Yeah, read it. In fact, this client came from Fix This Next, and I forgot to ask him how he found me. But so yeah, we're going to do that. My real focus is Profit First.
Yeah.
But I've had, I've been around a long time, and I've been a coach, and I worked for a town, done market research, and helped with systems and workflow and all of that. So this guy needs systems work, so that's what we're going to do.
Good.
And hey, I'll take it. And I think they can. It'll help them too. I mean,
of course,
he's out there He was on vacation, and the office called him. He was snorkeling, and the office called him. We can't do this. How do you do it? And he
Oh
said,
no.
"This is enough. We've got to
Yeah.
put systems together."
Yeah.
And so we can help with that.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Do you have specific systems and programs and stuff that you recommend to clients?
Well, we're going to do we're going to do a fix this next analysis. So he's listed a bunch of things that they don't have.
Okay.
And so we're going to have a kickoff meeting and go through the list and maybe develop some other ones. Here's what we need really to work on first.
Okay.
And then we'll tackle that and work on the next thing. But
Yeah.
he needs to have documentation. He needs to have his people be accountable for their jobs.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think we're going to really push on. Do an organization chart, whose function is what,
Hmm.
and have that person sign a document that says, okay, here's what the job is.
Right.
I agree to do it for the company, for the good of the company.
Yeah.
And then once we have that process done, then we'll have weekly meetings and say, okay, here's your homework. Here's how you're doing. What are the problems? Where is it working? And do that. We're going to do
Right.
it for we're going to do it for 12 weeks.
Okay.
And
Good.
I think that'll get him started. So.
Good. Very good. I used to work for a doctor's office, and he was of the opinion that everything was everyone's job. And I said to him, well, if it's everyone's job, then it's no one's job.
Yes.
And he liked to argue with me about that. And I said, so when it goes wrong, who gets called out on it? He said, well, everyone. I said, okay, but who's responsible for it? Well, everyone. And we went back and forth, and there was no
Wow.
changing
Yeah.
his mind. Um, I said, well, you're going to punish everyone for something that someone should have done. And we can get into that whole someone, everyone, no one, we can have that conversation. But until you have people that are passionate about what they do or can invest in their own well-being or their own job description, um, where are you going? You're just going to have this process that doesn't really happen, and it doesn't really flow the way it's supposed to flow. And you need people to take possession of that
Yeah.
and really, because it's never going to improve, because nobody's going to take it on as their own to improve it. So you'll always have this mediocre process until somebody takes ownership of it and decides they want to do it to the best of their ability.
And it's not written down. I mean, if it's not written down, or Mike says if it's not on video, it should be. I'm old-fashioned. But the system, you need to capture the system in a way that people can use it. And if it's
Yeah,
not written down, it doesn't exist.
that's right.
So that's what
Yeah.
we're going to help this guy do.
And interestingly, that was the mindset when he saw patients, that if it's not in the chart, it didn't happen.
So
So he understood that concept.
Yep.
Well, if it's not written down, it doesn't happen. So yeah, I've had some interesting jobs over the years. I've worked in just about every industry: medical, printing, direct mail, office furniture and supplies, local government,
yeah,
insurance. I ran an agency. I was an insurance underwriter. So I've had a lot of experience in a lot of different industries, which I think has only made me the person that I am, to be that administrative consultant.
exactly. That's what
Yeah.
makes us special and lets us help others in ways that other people can't.
Yeah.
The
Well,
young guys,
the
old guys
process,
rule.
yeah, the processes are this. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. The process, the workflows, the foundation for your business is the same regardless of the industry.
Yeah.
It's the same. You still need the same clarity on everything that you're doing. So it's just a matter of tweaking it for that specific industry. So,
Yeah.
so I think that has served me well over the years.
Indeed.
It brought me to this place where I can work with great people and have great satisfaction and help people along the way. So
Indeed.
that's the good stuff.
All righty. Well, this has been wonderful.
Yes, I've enjoyed it very much.
Me too. Thank you, Debbie. And I'll send you that stuff, and I'd like to talk offline about it too.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
great.
Okay. All
Thanks.
right. You have a
Bye
wonderful
bye.
day. We'll chat
You
with you soon.
too.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye.